1. Legendary beginnings. Close your eyes and let the present moment grow distant, like a shoreline fading behind a quiet boat. In the darkness behind your eyelids, a new landscape slowly appears. See a slow, winding river, its surface dark and smooth, reflecting pinpoints of starlight. This is the Tiber, flowing gently through the hills of central Italy. Long before the city of Rome becomes a great capital, the river moves without hurry, curving through valleys worn smooth by thousands of years of patient water. Its banks are lined with reeds that sway in the night breeze, whispering secrets to one another in a language older than words. Around the river, the land is peaceful. Low mist gathers near the water, rising like breath from the earth itself. Soft and weightless, the air feels cool and still, carrying the faint scent of wild herbs, thyme and rosemary growing on the hillsides, their fragrance released by the coolness of evening. Crickets sing their steady chorus, a rhythm as old as time itself, and somewhere in the distance, a wolf calls softly to the night. The call echoes across the valleys, then fades into silence, leaving only the gentle sound of the river's flow. On a cluster of hills overlooking the river, small campfires flicker like earthbound stars. These are the 7 hills that will one day bear the names Palatine, Capitoline, Aventine, Quirinal, Viminal, Esquiline, and Caelian. But tonight, they are simply hills, unmarked by history, waiting in the darkness. Shepherds sit close to the flames, speaking in low voices, then falling quiet as they drift toward sleep. Their sheep are gathered and safe, their work for the day already done. The animals rest in tight clusters, their wool still warm from the sun that set hours ago. The shepherds are the early Latins, people who have lived in these hills for generations, tending their flocks and watching the seasons turn. They know every path through the valleys, every stream that fills in spring and dries in summer. They know which plants heal and which harm, which caves offer shelter and which harbor danger. Their lives move with the rhythm of nature, wake with the sun, work through the day, rest when darkness falls. People here tell stories about the past and the gods. They speak of a princess who was forbidden to have children, yet gave birth to twin boys. Her name was Rhea Silvia, a Vestal virgin sworn to the goddess Vesta, bound by sacred oath to remain chaste and tend the eternal flame in the temple. She was a daughter of Numitor, the rightful king of Alba Longa, a city that stood not far from these hills. But her uncle Amulius had seized the throne, and to prevent Numitor's line from challenging his rule, he forced Rhea Silvia into the service of Vesta, where motherhood was forbidden. Yet the god Mars, they say, came to her. The god of war, fierce and powerful, looked upon the princess with favor, and in time, against all laws of gods and men, she gave birth to twin sons. When her condition could no longer be hidden, Amulius was furious. He imprisoned Rhea Silvia and ordered the infants to be cast into the Tiber, left to the mercy of the river and fate. They speak of those twins, Romulus and Remus, abandoned by the river, rescued and nursed by a she-wolf in a hidden cave. Picture the scene as the stories tell it. A servant, perhaps reluctant, places the babies in a crude basket of woven reeds. He carries them to the flooded banks of the Tiber, where the river runs high and wild with spring rains. He sets the basket on the water and watches as it drifts away, bobbing on the current, moving toward whatever destiny the gods have planned. But the basket does not sink. It floats, caught by eddies and gentle currents, until it comes to rest near the base of the Palatine Hill, in the shallows where fig trees grow and the water is calm. There, at the foot of the hill, lies a cave, the Lupercal, sacred and hidden, a place where shepherds sometimes leave offerings to the old gods of the wilderness. Imagine the cave now. Inside, it is cool and dark, protected from wind and rain. The stone walls are smooth, worn by centuries of water and weather. Moss grows in patches near the entrance, soft as velvet to the touch. The pups huddle close to their mother, and the human infants rest beside them, all breathing slowly in the warm, shared silence. The she-wolf, large and powerful, with gray fur and amber eyes, nuzzles the strange, hairless creatures that cry with hunger. Her instinct, meant for her own young, extends to these abandoned children. She lies on her side, and the twins nurse alongside the wolf cubs, finding warmth and nourishment in this most unlikely of sanctuaries. Days pass in the cave. The wolf comes and goes, hunting at night, returning at dawn. The twins grow stronger. Their cries become less desperate, their small fists unclenching. They sleep for long hours in the dimness of the cave, lulled by the sounds of the wolf's breathing and the distant murmur of the river. Eventually, a shepherd named Faustulus discovers them. He is making his rounds near the river when he notices the wolf entering the cave, not with the wariness of a wild creature, but with the purposeful stride of a mother returning to her young. Curious, he approaches. Inside, he finds the twins, now sturdy and alert, watched over by the she-wolf who shows no aggression, only a strange, gentle regard. Faustulus, a kind man with a gentle wife named Acca Larentia, takes the boys home. They raise Romulus and Remus as their own, teaching them the skills of shepherds, the ways of the hills, and the stories of the gods. As the twins grow, the legends say they become strong, brave, and restless. Romulus is bold and decisive, a natural leader who speaks with confidence and moves with purpose. Remus is equally courageous, but more playful, quicker to laugh, more willing to question. Together, they are inseparable, defending their adoptive family's flocks from thieves and wild animals, settling disputes among the shepherds, earning respect through strength and fairness. In time, they learn the truth of their birth. They discover that they are grandsons of Numitor, the deposed king. Filled with righteous anger, they gather followers, young shepherds and farmers, men tired of Amulius's cruelty. Together, they march on Alba Longa. The confrontation is swift. Amulius falls, and Numitor is restored to his throne. The old king weeps with gratitude and pride when he embraces his grandsons, these boys who were meant to die but who lived, against all odds, to restore his kingdom. But Romulus and Remus do not wish to remain in Alba Longa. The hills by the Tiber call to them, the place where they were abandoned and saved, where they grew strong among the shepherds. They return to these hills above the river and decide to found a city of their own, a place where they will rule, where outcasts and the brave might find a home. The air feels charged with possibility, yet the night remains calm and still. See Romulus tracing a line in the earth with a plow, marking where future walls will stand. The plow is drawn by white oxen, their breath steaming in the cool morning air. The furrow he cuts is straight and deep, a sacred boundary that will define the city's limits. In Roman tradition, this line, the Pomerium, is holy. To cross it armed, to violate it in any way, is to commit sacrilege. The sky above him is deep and star-filled, a quiet witness to his work. Every step he takes along the line of the future wall is slow and deliberate, like a breath in and a breath out. Remus watches his brother work. Perhaps he feels the weight of what is happening, the solemnity of the ritual, or perhaps, in his playful nature, he feels the need to test, to challenge. The stories tell us that Remus mocks the shallow furrow, laughing that such a low wall could never protect a city. To prove his point, he leaps across the line. Romulus, in a flash of anger, or perhaps of religious fervor, believing his brother has defiled something sacred, strikes Remus down. The blow is fatal. Remus falls to the earth, his blood darkening the soil, and Romulus stands over him, the founder of a city built on both vision and fratricide, on dreams and violence intertwined. The story is somber, a reminder that even in myth, even in the founding of great civilizations, there is conflict and loss. Romulus buries his brother with honor, but the shadow of that moment lingers. Rome will be his city alone, named for him, built according to his will, and it will carry forever the paradox of its beginning, born of divine favor and human flaw, of rescue and murder, of the best and worst of what it means to be alive. Even in this moment of myth, there is time for rest. As the day's planning ends, workers lie down on simple pallets of straw. A few small fires burn low, then fade to embers, and the hills return to darkness. The first residents of this new settlement, outcasts, refugees, younger sons with no inheritance, men seeking fresh starts, settle into sleep under the vast canopy of stars. They do not yet know what Rome will become. They know only that they have found a place, a community, a chance. Let this scene settle in your mind. The twins, the river, the 7 hills, all wrapped in the quiet of ancient night. The she-wolf returning to her cave, her work done, the plow resting against a stone, the embers cooling to ash. With each breath, the world of modern noise drifts farther away, and the beginnings of Rome glow like a distant memory in the dark. Breathe slowly. Rest here, in this space between myth and history, where the story of an empire begins with 2 infants, a river, and the kindness of a wolf. Let sleep come gently, like mist rising from the Tiber. 2. Early Kingdom Nights. Now, let the story move forward, just a little. The small settlement on the hills has become a young city, a kingdom ruled by early Roman kings. The sun has set over the tiled roofs and wooden beams of the first Roman houses. Shadows stretch along the dirt streets, and the last glow of daylight fades behind the hills. The sky transitions through shades of deep orange, then purple, then the rich blue-black of true night. One by one, oil lamps are lit inside homes, warm circles of light against the growing night. Each lamp is a small clay vessel filled with olive oil, with a wick of twisted flax that burns steadily, patiently, asking nothing but a bit of oil to keep the darkness at bay. The city is small, so the sounds are gentle. You might hear the soft closing of a wooden door, its hinges creaking slightly, as someone secures it for the night with a simple wooden bar. You might catch the murmur of a family finishing their meal, voices low and content, speaking of small things, a neighbor's kindness, a tool that needs mending, a child's question about the stars. There's the clink of pottery being set aside, clay bowls and cups placed carefully on wooden shelves or in woven baskets, ready for tomorrow's use. Soon, even these sounds quiet down, like waves that have spent their force on the shore, leaving only the whisper of their passage. The reign of kings has brought order to Rome. After Romulus, there came Numa Pompilius, the peaceful king, the one who established temples and rituals, who taught the Romans to honor the gods with proper ceremony. He was a man of contemplation, spending long hours in sacred groves, listening, the people said, to the counsel of the nymph Egeria, who spoke to him beside a quiet spring. Under Numa's rule, the city learned the rhythms of religious life, when to plant and when to harvest, when to make offerings and when to seek divine favor, when to go to war and when to make peace. Then came Tullus Hostilius, whose name itself suggests aggression, warlike, energetic, the opposite of peaceful Numa. He expanded Rome's territory through conflict, proving that this small city had the strength to stand against its neighbors. After him, Ancus Marcius balanced war and peace, building Rome's first bridge across the Tiber and establishing the port of Ostia at the river's mouth, where the Tiber meets the sea. These kings, each in turn, shaped the young city, gave it structure, gave it purpose. Inside a simple house, a family prepares to sleep. The walls are made of mud brick or wattle and daub, wooden frames filled with woven sticks and covered with clay that has been smoothed and dried in the sun. The floor is hard-packed earth, but covered with straw mats or simple bedding made of wool blankets and animal hides. A single lamp burns near the wall, its flame swaying slowly in the air, casting soft shadows on the rough plaster that covers the interior walls. The shadows dance gently, moving like living things, but there is nothing threatening in their motion, only the peaceful play of light and darkness. The father of the household is a farmer, perhaps, or a craftsman who works with leather or bronze. His hands are calloused from labor, his face weathered by sun and wind. He sits on a low stool, removing his sandals, simple affairs of leather straps and thick soles, and setting them by the door. His wife tends to the last tasks of the evening, banking the cooking fire so it will smolder through the night and be easy to revive at dawn. The fire pit is in the center of the main room, and smoke rises through a hole in the roof, carrying with it the smell of the evening's meal, bread perhaps, and a simple stew of beans and vegetables, maybe a bit of cheese. The parents speak quietly, planning the next day's work in the fields, in small workshops, or tending animals outside the city walls. Their voices are calm, unhurried. There is comfort in routine, in knowing what tomorrow will bring. The wife mentions that she needs to take grain to be ground at the communal millstone. The husband nods, says he will repair the plow before the next planting season, that the iron tip is wearing thin and needs attention from the blacksmith. Children lie close together for warmth on a raised wooden platform that serves as a sleeping area, covered with more straw and wool. There are 2 of them, maybe 3, a daughter of 8 or 9, a son of 6, perhaps an infant wrapped snugly and already asleep. They listen without understanding every word their parents speak, their minds already drifting across the border into dreams. The older children see fragments of the day replaying behind their closed eyes, running through the narrow streets with other children, playing a game with stones and sticks, watching a potter shape clay on his wheel, the wet earth spinning and rising into a vessel under his practiced hands. Before long, their breathing falls into an easy, steady rhythm. The mother comes to them, adjusts their blankets, brushes hair from the daughter's forehead with a touch so gentle it barely disturbs sleep. She whispers a prayer to the household gods, the Lars and Penates, asking them to watch over her family through the night. Every Roman home has its small shrine, a niche in the wall where tiny figurines stand, representations of the protective spirits that guard the family. A bit of food from dinner has been left there as an offering, a small portion of bread or a few drops of wine, given with gratitude and hope. The father extinguishes the lamp, pinching the wick between moistened fingers. Darkness fills the room like water filling a vessel, complete and soft. Outside, the young city settles into its nightly rest. Outside, the young city is guarded by its early walls. These are not yet the massive fortifications that will one day surround Rome, not the towering Servian walls that will stand for centuries. These early walls are simpler. Earthen ramparts topped with wooden palisades, ditches dug to make approach difficult for enemies, but they serve their purpose. They mark the boundary between the order of the city and the wilderness beyond, between civilization and chaos. A few watchmen stand at the gates, wrapped in heavy woolen cloaks against the night chill. The spring and fall evenings can be cool in central Italy, even after warm days. The watchmen lean on spears, their tips pointing upward toward the stars. They look out into the starlit countryside, their eyes adjusted to the darkness, alert for movement, though on most nights there is none. These are men who take their duty seriously, even on quiet nights. They know that the city depends on their vigilance, that families sleep soundly because they stand watch. They speak occasionally in low voices, sharing a story or a complaint about stiff joints, passing a flask of watered wine between them. One might mention seeing a fox in the fields earlier, its eyes reflecting torchlight. Another might speak of his son, who is learning a trade, or of his hopes for the harvest. These are ordinary men with ordinary concerns, doing their part to keep the city safe. Beyond the walls, fields rest, empty and dark, waiting for the sun to return. The wheat planted in autumn is still low, the barley just beginning to show green. The fields are divided into strips, worked by different families, each responsible for their own plot. By day, you would see farmers bent to their work, their faces turned to the earth. But now, at night, the fields are still, inhabited only by the occasional hare or owl hunting mice in the furrows. Imagine walking slowly through these night streets. Your footsteps are soft on the packed earth, making almost no sound. The streets are narrow, designed more for foot traffic and the occasional donkey cart than for grand processions. They wind between buildings, following the contours of the hills, rising and falling in gentle slopes. Here and there, a street opens into a small square where neighbors gather by day, where a well provides water, where perhaps a small shrine marks a sacred spot. A dog stirs from where it lies in a doorway, its ears perking up at the sound of your approach. It lifts its head, regards you with sleepy eyes, decides there is no danger in your passing, and settles again with a soft sigh. Dogs are common in the city, working animals that guard homes and flocks, but also companions, members of the household in their way. Above you, the sky is wide and unpolluted by bright lights. Every star is clear, like fine dust scattered across a black cloth. The Romans know these stars, know the patterns they form, the stories they tell. There is Ursa Major, the Great Bear, circling endlessly around the pole. There is Orion the Hunter, rising in winter with his belt and sword. There is the Milky Way, that great river of light that the Greeks say is the spilled milk of Hera, but which some Roman philosophers believe might be distant suns too far away to see individually. The moon, whether thin or full, gives just enough light to see the outline of rooftops and trees. Tonight let it be a waxing crescent, a slender curve of silver hanging in the western sky, following the sun down toward the horizon. In its gentle light, you can make out the shapes of things, the corner of a building, the spreading branches of a fig tree in someone's courtyard, the silhouette of the city walls against the lighter darkness of the open sky. The early temples of the city rise slightly above the surrounding buildings. The Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill, though not yet the grand structure it will become, still commands respect, a place of wooden columns and terracotta decorations where the city's most important ceremonies take place. The eternal flame of Vesta burns in her circular temple in the Forum, tended by the Vestal virgins who keep their sacred watch, ensuring that the flame never dies. For if it should, Rome itself would be in danger. As the night deepens, even the watchmen grow quieter. The last flask is emptied and set aside. One man yawns, stretching his shoulders. Another adjusts his cloak more tightly. They have hours yet before dawn, hours of standing in the cool darkness. But they are used to it. This is their role, their service to the city. Silence spreads from house to house, from street to field, until the entire young kingdom rests together, breathing in time with the slow flow of the river. The Tiber moves through the darkness, its current steady and eternal, carrying water from the mountains to the sea. It has witnessed everything: the founding, the first buildings, the quarrels and alliances, the births and deaths. It will witness everything to come. But tonight, it simply flows, indifferent and patient, as it always has. The early city sleeps, unaware of the vast future that lies ahead. These Romans of the kingdom period do not know that their city will one day rule the Mediterranean, that Roman law will shape civilizations, that Latin will become the foundation of languages spoken across continents, that roads built by Roman engineers will last for millennia. They know only their small world, these 7 hills, this bend in the river, these fields and neighbors, these rituals and routines. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps in this moment, this quiet night in the early kingdom, there is everything that matters: safety, community, the warmth of family, the promise of tomorrow. Let yourself rest here, in this ancient night, where the city is young and the world is simple. Breathe with the sleeping city. Feel the cool night air, the solid earth beneath you, the vast sky above. Let the gentle darkness embrace you as it embraces Rome, and drift slowly toward sleep. 3. Life and sleep in the Republic. Let the years roll by gently, like clouds crossing a summer sky. Time moves forward in its patient way, unhurried and inevitable. The kings are gone now, and Rome has become a republic, ruled by magistrates, senators, and assemblies. The transformation happened in 509 BCE, when the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud, was expelled from the city after his son's terrible crime against Lucretia, a noble woman whose honor and subsequent death became a rallying cry for change. In the daytime, the city is busier than it was in the kingdom years. The population has grown, the streets have multiplied, and the rhythms of commerce and politics pulse through every neighborhood. Citizens crowd the Forum, talking politics, trade, and law beneath the bright sun. The Forum Romanum has become the beating heart of the Republic, a wide, open space paved with stone, surrounded by temples, basilicas, and public buildings. Here, men in togas debate the issues of the day, their voices rising and falling in passionate argument. Some are senators, members of Rome's most powerful body, Men from old families whose ancestors helped build the city. They wear togas with a broad purple stripe, the toga praetexta, marking their status. Others are equestrians, the merchant class, wealthy from trade and business ventures, wearing rings of gold that catch the sunlight. Still others are ordinary citizens, plebeians, farmers and craftsmen who have walked in from the surrounding countryside or emerged from the city's neighborhoods to participate in assemblies, to vote, to witness justice being dispensed. Markets fill with the scent of bread, olives, and wine, and the sound of bargaining echoes between temples and public buildings. The markets sprawl through designated areas near the forum and in neighborhoods throughout the city. Vendors call out their wares in loud, practiced voices. Fresh garum from Pompeii, the finest fish sauce, olives from Greece, sweet as honey, wine from Campania, aged to perfection. The air is thick with smells, baking bread from numerous ovens, the sharp tang of garum, the earthy scent of fresh vegetables piled on wooden tables, the sweetness of honey and dried fruits. Women move through the markets with practiced efficiency, their servants following with baskets. They squeeze melons to test ripeness, sniff at bundles of herbs, negotiate prices with vendors who expect haggling as part of the dance of commerce. Children dart between the stalls, sometimes sent on errands, sometimes simply exploring, their eyes wide at the abundance displayed. But when night comes, the busy city slowly releases its grip on the day. The transformation is gradual, like the dimming of light as the sun descends. Voices fade, one conversation ending, then another, until the roar of commerce becomes a murmur, then a whisper. Market stalls close, their owners packing away unsold goods into wooden chests or covering them with canvas for the night. Tools are set aside, hammers and chisels of stoneworkers, the leather-working tools of cobblers, the needles and thread of tailors. Heavy doors are barred with thick wooden beams that drop into iron brackets, securing homes and shops against the darkness. In a modest apartment building, an insula, families live close together in small rooms stacked one above another. These insulae are the solution to Rome's housing shortage, multi-story buildings that rise 4, 5, sometimes 6 stories high. The ground floor often contains shops that open directly onto the street, a baker's shop perhaps, or a tavern, a metalworker's stall, or a vendor of pottery. Above these commercial spaces, the apartments climb upward, growing smaller and more cramped with each floor, the rent decreasing as the stairs increase. The floors creak faintly as neighbors move about in the early evening, finishing chores and sharing food. The wooden beams that support these buildings are old, settling under the weight of stone and brick, and every footstep announces itself. You can hear the family above you moving about their room, can hear children running despite their parents' tired calls for quiet. You can hear water being poured, the clatter of dishes, the murmur of prayers to household gods. Then, little by little, the noise drops to a low, comforting hum. It never disappears entirely. Rome is too crowded, too full of life for true silence. But it softens, becomes background rather than foreground, becomes almost like the sound of the sea, constant but no longer intrusive. Inside one of these rooms, a family spreads out its bedding. The room is small, perhaps 12 feet square, with plastered walls that were once painted but have faded and chipped over the years. A single window, small and high on the wall, lets in fading evening light. Some sleep on simple wooden frames with straw-filled mattresses. The frames are basic: 4 legs, a rectangular border, with rope or leather straps woven across to support the mattress. The straw inside the mattress rustles when weight shifts, a sound that becomes familiar, even comforting. Others rest on blankets or mats laid directly on the floor. These are the children, usually, or elderly relatives who find it easier to lie on the floor than to climb onto a bed frame. The blankets are wool, woven by hand, thick enough to provide cushioning and warmth. The floor itself is wood on the upper stories, worn smooth by years of feet. The oil lamp here is small but steady, the flame protected from drafts by the lamp's design. A small clay vessel with a covered reservoir for oil and a narrow spout where the wick emerges. Its light turns the room golden and dim, softening every object, making sharp corners seem round and safe. Shadows dance on the walls, but gently, without threat. The quality of the light is warm, almost amber, very different from the harsh brightness of the midday sun. On a shelf, a few clay cups and bowls catch the glow. These are the family's possessions, simple vessels for eating and drinking, perhaps a small pot for storage, a few tools. By modern standards, the room is spare, almost empty, but it contains everything necessary: shelter, warmth, a place to sleep, and the presence of loved ones. The day has been full. Perhaps the father has visited the forum, standing in the crowd to hear a magistrate announce new laws, or to listen to a trial being conducted in the open air. Roman justice is public, conducted where all can see and hear, a spectacle and a civic lesson combined. Or perhaps he has worked on a nearby construction site. Rome is constantly building, new temples rising to honor the gods, new basilicas for conducting business and hearing legal cases, new aqueducts to bring fresh water from the hills, new roads paved with carefully fitted stones. Perhaps the mother has spent hours grinding grain, baking bread, and gathering water. The grain must be ground daily. There are no stores of flour in these small apartments, so wheat or barley must be taken to the communal millstone, ground by hand or by a donkey walking in circles, then carried home as flour. The bread must be baked, either in a small oven in the courtyard of the insula, or carried to a commercial bakery, where, for a small fee, the baker will use his large oven to bake your loaves along with his own. Water must be gathered from public fountains. Rome is blessed with abundant water. Aqueducts carry millions of gallons daily from springs in the surrounding hills, but most of this water flows to public fountains, to the great baths, to the homes of the wealthy. Those who live in insulae must carry water up flights of stairs in clay amphorae or leather buckets, the water sloshing with each step, arms aching from the weight. Now, all of that slips gently behind them. The tasks are done. Tomorrow will bring new tasks, but that is tomorrow. Tonight is for rest. They speak a little about the day, about small concerns, about plans for tomorrow. The father mentions he needs to repair a tool. The mother says she saw a neighbor who was ill and plans to bring them food. A child asks a question about something seen in the street, and the father answers patiently, his voice already growing drowsy. Then they speak less, words coming more slowly, with longer pauses between. Then, not at all, the words of the Republic: debate, law, alliance, cursus honorum, Senate, assembly, fade behind the more immediate comfort of warmth and rest. Politics and philosophy, trade and warfare, all the things that fill the Roman day, recede into unimportance. What matters now is simply this: lying down, being still, allowing the body to recover. Elsewhere in the city, wealthier Romans lie down in more spacious homes, the domus with inner courtyards and painted walls. These are single-family houses, built around a central open space called the atrium. When you enter a domus from the street, you pass through a short corridor into this atrium, open to the sky, where rainwater collects in a shallow pool called the impluvium. The water is fresh and cool, and the sound of rain falling into the pool is one of the most soothing sounds a Roman knows. Around the atrium, rooms open, cubicula for sleeping, a tablinum where the head of household conducts business and stores important documents, a triclinium where the family reclines on couches to eat their meals. The walls are painted with frescoes, scenes of gardens where birds perch on branches, or mythological tales where gods and heroes act out familiar stories, or simple geometric patterns in red, yellow, and black. They have beds of wood and rope, with softer mattresses stuffed with wool, feathers, or even down if the family is particularly wealthy. Some beds have ornate headboards, carved with decorative patterns. The mattresses are covered with linen sheets, and blankets of fine wool, dyed in rich colors, lie folded at the foot of the bed. Pillows stuffed with soft material support the head and neck. Curtains hang from rods or hooks, allowing the sleeper to draw them for privacy and to block out early morning light. Yet no matter how fine the house, sleep comes in the same way, breath by breath, thought by thought, letting go. The wealthy senator lies down just as the laborer does. His bed may be softer, his room larger, his worries perhaps more complex. The responsibilities of office, the management of estates, the navigation of political alliances. But the process of falling asleep is universal. The body grows heavy, the mind begins to wander, thoughts become less linear, more dreamlike, and eventually, consciousness slips away into the mysterious realm of sleep. In some bedrooms, or cubicula, the only sound is a distant fountain in the house's central courtyard. The courtyard, the peristylum, often contains a garden with flowers, herbs, and small trees. A fountain provides both beauty and a pleasant sound. Water spills and splashes in a steady, gentle rhythm, like a soft, endless lullaby. The sound never varies, never intrudes, but simply exists as a presence, a companion to sleep. The cool night air moves slowly across the stone floors, carrying away the heat of the day. During the summer, when Rome grows hot and the sun beats down mercilessly on stone and tile, these nighttime hours bring relief. The houses are designed to catch breezes, to allow air to flow through corridors and rooms, to provide respite from the heat. The stone floors, which absorbed warmth during the day, now release it gradually, but the air moving across them is cooler, fresher, scented with the flowers in the courtyard garden, roses, perhaps, or lavender, or jasmine that releases its perfume most strongly at night. The Republic is growing stronger, reaching out beyond its old borders, but at night the city feels small and human again. The vast political machinery, the complex web of alliances and competitions, the inexorable expansion of Roman power into new territories, all of this continues, but at night it pauses, or at least seems to pause. Under the darkness, all who live here share the same simple ritual, closing their eyes, yielding to fatigue, and trusting that morning will come. The trust itself is remarkable when you think about it. To sleep is to make yourself vulnerable, to release control, to believe that you will wake again. It is an act of faith repeated every night by every person. And in Rome, where life can be uncertain, where disease and accident are always possible, where political violence sometimes erupts. This nightly surrender to sleep is even more profound. Yet they do it. They lie down. They close their eyes. They sleep. And in sleeping, they are most fully human, not Romans or Greeks, not patricians or plebeians, not senators or slaves, but simply people resting in the darkness, breathing slowly, dreaming dreams that no historian records, but that were as real and vivid as any we experience today. 4. Daily rhythms and bedrooms. Now, focus on the rhythm of a Roman day, its gentle arc from waking to sleeping. This rhythm is ancient and natural, shaped by the sun's movement across the sky, by the body's needs, by patterns established over generations. Imagine you are living in this city, following the pattern that generations have known. You are not a visitor observing from outside, but a participant, someone whose life moves with the same rhythms as all those around you. Your days follow a pattern so familiar, it requires no thought. You simply flow through it like water following the shape of its channel. Before dawn, the sky is a deep blue-gray, and the air is chill. This is the quietest hour in Rome, the pause between night and day, when even the city seems to hold its breath. Some Romans rise early, lighting lamps and small fires, preparing bread or opening shops. These are the bakers, whose work must begin in darkness so that fresh bread will be ready when customers arrive at first light. The glow of their ovens can be seen through doorways, and the smell of baking bread begins to drift through the streets, one of the first signs that a new day is beginning. Shop owners unbolt their doors, preparing for business. Some sweep the area in front of their shops, clearing away dust and debris from the previous day. Tavern keepers set out tables and benches, ready for customers who will stop for a quick breakfast of bread and wine before beginning their work. The city is waking slowly, one person at a time, one shop at a time. Others stay wrapped in their blankets a bit longer, listening to the faint stirrings in the streets outside. They hear footsteps passing, hear the creak of cartwheels, hear distant voices, but they remain in bed, holding on to the last moments of rest, knowing that once they rise, the demands of the day will not cease until night returns. There is a particular comfort in lying still while the world begins to move around you, in being cocooned in warmth while the air outside is cold. As the sun rises, light filters through the small openings in the walls or through shutters. Roman windows are not like modern ones. There is no glass, or if there is, it is small, thick, and cloudy, reserved for the very wealthy. Most windows are simply openings that can be closed with wooden shutters. When the shutters are open, air and light enter freely. When closed, the room becomes darker and more private, though cracks between the boards still let in slivers of light. The household wakes fully. Children sit up, rubbing their eyes, their hair tangled from sleep. Adults begin the day's tasks, rekindling fires, fetching water, preparing the morning meal. In wealthier homes, slaves attend to these tasks, moving quietly through the rooms. In more modest households, the mother or father performs them, their movements practiced and efficient. The morning meal is usually simple: bread, perhaps dipped in wine or olive oil, some cheese, a few olives or dried figs. Romans do not eat large breakfasts. The main meal of the day will come later, in the afternoon. For now, just enough food to break the night's fast, to provide energy for the morning's work. As the morning progresses, the city comes fully alive. The streets fill with people going about their business. Slaves hurry on errands for their masters. Merchants open their shops. Construction workers gather at building sites. Lawyers and their clients meet to discuss cases. Teachers receive their students. The farm becomes crowded with people conducting business, making deals, arguing cases, listening to speeches. Hours later, as the sun climbs high and the streets grow hot and bright, many seek a period of rest. This is a distinctive feature of Roman life, this midday pause. The heat of the Italian sun at noon can be intense, especially in summer. The white stone of buildings reflects the light, multiplying its brightness. The air shimmers above the paved streets. It becomes uncomfortable to work, difficult to think clearly. In houses and apartments, people retreat into rooms that are dimmer and cooler, away from the harsh midday light. Shutters are closed against the sun, creating a twilight atmosphere, even though it is the middle of the day. The contrast between the brilliant sunshine outside and the cool dimness inside is striking, almost shocking. Your eyes need a moment to adjust as you step from light into shadow. They may lie down briefly, closing their eyes for a short sleep, a pause in the heart of the day. This is not considered lazy or indulgent. It is simply sensible, a recognition of the body's rhythms and the climate's demands. Some lie on their beds, others recline on couches. Some simply sit in shaded areas, their eyes closed, their breathing slowing. The siesta, as later cultures will call it, though Romans have their own words for it, a brief surrender to rest, perhaps an hour, perhaps less. Not deep sleep usually, but a drowsy state, a floating between waking and sleeping. And when they rise, refreshed, the afternoon's work seems more manageable, the heat more bearable. Picture a Roman bedroom, the cubiculum. The word itself means a place for lying down, derived from the verb kubar, to lie down, to recline. These rooms are typically small, designed primarily for sleeping, rather than for spending waking hours. The walls may be painted with simple colors, red ochre, yellow ochre, black, white, or decorated with scenes of gardens, gods, or animals if the household has the means to hire an artist. Some walls show paradisos, garden scenes where nature is perfected and idealized. Trees bear fruit and flowers simultaneously. Birds of impossible colors perch on branches. Fountains flow eternally. These painted gardens bring nature indoors, create a sense of space and beauty, even in a small room. They are windows onto an imaginary world, a world of perpetual spring and abundance. Other walls might show mythological scenes, Venus rising from the sea, Mars in his armor, Mercury with his winged sandals, Apollo with his lyre. These images connect the sleeper to the divine realm, remind them of the stories that shape Roman understanding of the world and themselves. The bed is a wooden frame, perhaps tied with woven straps or ropes, supporting a mattress of straw, wool, or other soft materials. The frame stands on 4 legs, raising it above the cold floor. The legs might be simple or carved with decorative patterns, depending on the household's wealth. Some wealthy beds have legs carved to look like lion's paws, or turned on a lathe to create elegant shapes. The ropes or leather straps are woven in a crosshatch pattern, creating a flexible surface that supports the weight of the mattress and the sleeper. Over time, these straps stretch and loosen, requiring periodic tightening. There is an art to this, a skill in knowing how tight to make them. Too loose, and the bed sags uncomfortably. Too tight, and it becomes hard as a board. A blanket or cover is folded at the foot of the bed, ready for the cool hours of the night. During the day, The bed might be made simply by straightening the mattress and folding or rolling the blankets. At night, these blankets will be unfolded and pulled up for warmth. In winter, multiple blankets might be piled on, their weight comforting as well as warming. Near the doorway, an oil lamp rests on a small stand, its wick trimmed, its clay body stained dark from many nights of burning. The lamp is a humble object, but essential. It holds perhaps a few hours' worth of olive oil in its reservoir. The wick, made of twisted flax or linen, draws the oil up and burns with a small, steady flame. When lit, this lamp will cast a small circle of light, enough to see by, but not enough to disturb sleep. The clay itself tells a story. These lamps are mass-produced, made in molds, decorated with simple patterns or scenes. The top surface might show a gladiator in combat, a dolphin leaping through waves, an erotic scene, or a god's image. They are affordable, functional objects owned by rich and poor alike. When they break, they are discarded and new ones purchased. Archaeologists will find thousands of them, scattered through the ruins, each one a witness to countless nights. At the end of the day, the family returns to these spaces. The bustle of the streets, the worries of trade, debt, and politics all gradually fade as they prepare for bed. The transition from day to night is a process, not an instant. First comes the evening meal, the cena, the main meal of the day. In modest homes, this might be a simple stew of vegetables and grains, perhaps with a small amount of meat or fish. Bread, of course, the staple of every meal, watered wine to drink. In wealthier homes, the cena is more elaborate. Multiple courses might be served, appetizers of eggs, olives, and salads, main courses of fish or meat prepared with herbs and garum, desserts of fruit and honey cakes. The family reclines on couches arranged around three sides of a table, propped on their left elbows, eating with their right hands. Conversation flows, sometimes light and playful, sometimes serious, discussing business or politics or family matters. After the meal, there may be a period of quiet activity, reading perhaps. Those who are literate might read scrolls by lamplight, unwinding them carefully, their eyes following the lines of text that run without spaces between words. Or conversation, sitting in the atrium or peristylum, if the weather is mild, talking about the day's events, telling stories, teaching children, maintaining the bonds of family. But eventually, fatigue makes itself known. Yawns become more frequent. Eyes grow heavy. The children are sent to bed first. Younger ones perhaps carried by their parents. Older ones walking on their own, their steps slow and drowsy. Then the adults prepare for their own rest. The act of lying down becomes a kind of daily ritual, repeated thousands of times across the centuries. It is simple but meaningful. The body recognizes the position, knows what it means. When you lie horizontal, when you close your eyes, when you still your limbs, the body understands. It is time to rest, time to repair, to consolidate memories, to process the day's experiences, to restore energy for tomorrow. In poorer households, the sleeping arrangements are simpler but no less meaningful. Several people might share a single room, rolling out mats or straw pallets in whatever space they can find. There is no privacy in the modern sense. You sleep within arm's reach of others, can hear their breathing, feel the warmth of their bodies in the cold night air. The nearness of others, the shared warmth and breathing, create a sense of safety in the darkness. Humans are social creatures. For most of our history, we have slept in groups, in caves with our extended families, in small huts with our clans, in barracks with our fellow soldiers. To sleep alone is actually the unusual condition. So these crowded Roman rooms, where multiple generations might share space, are in some ways truer to our nature. Children sleep piled together like puppies, their limbs tangled, their faces peaceful. An infant might wake in the night to nurse, and the mother tends to it with practiced ease, barely waking herself. A child might cry out from a nightmare, and a parent's voice, soft and reassuring, brings them back to calm. These moments are private, unrecorded, but they are the fabric of human life, repeated in every culture, every era. As the lamp is finally lowered or extinguished, the bedroom becomes a quiet island in a sea of night. The flame is blown out or snuffed with moistened fingers. For a moment, the smell of smoking wick hangs in the air. Then the darkness is complete, or nearly so. Perhaps a bit of moonlight enters through a high window or a gap in the shutters, painting faint shapes on the floor and walls. Outside, the city still exists, but its noises are muffled and distant. Cartwheels rattle on stone streets. Carts are banned from the streets during the day in most of Rome, so night is when goods are transported, when supplies are delivered to shops and warehouses. The sound carries far in the quiet, a rhythmic clatter that eventually becomes soothing, like rain. A dog barks, sharp and urgent, then stops. Voices, too far away to understand the words, just the rise and fall of speech. Inside, the heartbeat slows, muscles soften, and the mind begins to drift, carried gently toward dreams. The process is mysterious. We cannot will ourselves to sleep. The harder we try, the more elusive it becomes. But when we stop trying, when we simply lie still and let go, sleep comes of its own accord, like a tide rising on a shore, gradually covering the sand, inch by inch, until we are submerged. The Romans sleep as humans have always slept, as humans will always sleep, surrendering consciousness to that strange, necessary oblivion, trusting in the dawn. 5. Expansion and distant frontiers. Let your thoughts travel outward now, following the roads that lead away from Rome. Stone-paved highways stretch across fields, hills, and mountains, carrying merchants, officials, and soldiers to distant lands. These roads are marvels of engineering, built to last centuries, designed with such skill that some still carry traffic 2,000 years later. The roads begin in Rome, radiating outward like spokes from a wheel's hub. The Via Appia, the Queen of Roads, runs southeast toward the port cities of southern Italy. The Via Flaminia heads northeast through the Apennine Mountains. The Via Aurelia follows the western coast. Each road is built in layers, large stones for foundation, smaller stones and gravel for drainage, fitted paving stones on top, slightly curved so rain runs off to the sides. Milestones mark the distances, and roadside inns provide rest for travelers. During the day, legions march in formation, their armor gleaming, their footsteps pounding the earth in a steady rhythm. Picture them, 6,000 men in a full legion, organized into 10 cohorts, each cohort divided into centuries of 80 men. They march in column, the steady tramp of hobnailed boots, creating a sound like distant thunder. The sun beats down, dust rises from the road, and voices call orders above the clatter of equipment. Each soldier carries his gear, a pack containing rations, cooking equipment, tools for building camp, personal items. The pack weighs perhaps 50 or 60 pounds. His armor adds more weight. The lorica segmentata, the segmented plate armor that protects his torso, or the lorica hamata, chainmail that flows like metal cloth, his helmet, his gladius sword, his shield, his javelins, all together. A Roman soldier on the march carries the weight of a small person on his back. They march 15, sometimes 20 miles in a day, depending on terrain and conditions. Their training has prepared them for this. They are professionals, not conscripts. Many signed up for 25 years of service, drawn by the promise of steady pay, Roman citizenship upon discharge, and a grant of land when their service ends. They come from all over the growing empire: Italy, Spain, Gaul, North Africa, the eastern provinces. They speak Latin as a common language, but among themselves they might use their native tongues. But when the day's march ends, even armies must rest. Picture a Roman military camp at night, set up in neat, ordered lines. The Romans call it a castrum, and its construction is the same whether the legion camps for one night or 1 year. As soon as the march ends, work begins. The camp is laid out in a rectangular shape, always the same dimensions, always the same organization. This standardization means every soldier knows exactly where to go, exactly where everything is, even in darkness or chaos. First, they dig a ditch around the perimeter, piling the dirt inward to form a rampart. Stakes are planted on top of the rampart, creating a defensive wall. 4 gates pierce this wall, 1 on each side. Inside, the camp is divided by 2 main roads crossing at right angles. The commander's tent stands at the center. Around it, in orderly rows, stand the tents of the soldiers. Tents stand in rows, marked by pathways and small boundaries, forming a temporary city of canvas and leather. Each tent, called a papilio, or butterfly, because of its shape, houses 8 men, a contubernium, the basic unit of Roman military organization. These 8 men share everything: their tent, their hooking, their watch duties, their dangers. They become closer than brothers, their lives dependent on one another. The tents are made of leather, heavy and durable, waterproofed with animal fat. They provide shelter from rain and wind, retain some warmth in cold weather, and can be taken down and packed quickly when the march resumes. Inside, space is tight. The 8 men sleep side by side on their cloaks, using their packs as pillows, but they are used to close quarters, find comfort in proximity. Beyond the camp, the countryside lies open and dark, stretching away under unfamiliar stars. The legion might be in Gaul, where dense forests loom beyond the firelight, where strange birdsong echoes at dawn, or in Spain, where the landscape is dry and rocky, where the wind carries the scent of wild herbs, or in Britain, where the air is often damp and cool, where mist rises from rivers and marshes, or in the east, in Syria or Judea, where the heat of the day gives way to surprisingly cold nights, where the stars seem different, arranged in unfamiliar patterns. Inside the camp, the soundscape changes as evening falls. The metallic ring of armor being removed breaks the relative quiet, the sound of buckles being undone, of segmented plates being stacked, of chainmail being hung on wooden frames to prevent rust. Metal rings and buckles fall silent as armor is removed and stacked. Each soldier tends his equipment carefully. A legionary's armor is his life. It must be kept clean, oiled, in perfect working order. Rust is the enemy, carelessness fatal. Cooking fires are lit, sending up thin columns of smoke and the faint smell of food. Each contubernium has a fire, cooks their own meal in a shared pot. The rations are simple: grain, usually wheat or barley, which they grind and make into porridge or flat bread. Sometimes they have bacon, salted pork that adds flavor and fat. Sometimes vegetables if they can forage or purchase them from locals. Sometimes they hunt rabbits, deer, wild birds to supplement their diet. Wine is part of the ration, though it is heavily watered, more for calories and variety than intoxication. Clean water isn't always easy to find, and the slight acidity of wine makes questionable water safer to drink. They drink from wooden cups or directly from their canteens, leather or ceramic vessels that hang at their belts. Soldiers gather in small groups, eating, talking, sometimes laughing quietly about home, family, and past adventures. They share stories from Rome, tales of streets, markets, and temples, bright in their minds against the night. These stories connect them to the life they left behind, remind them why they serve, give them hope for the future when their service ends and they can return. They talk about their homes, the small towns and villages they came from, the families they left behind. Some have wives and children they see only when granted leave. Some have sweethearts waiting. Others are young, unattached, their futures uncertain. They talk about battles they've fought, campaigns they've survived, comrades who fell. They complain about their centurions, about the harshness of discipline, about the boredom of garrison duty and the terror of combat. They joke and tease, finding humor even in hardship. Soldiers have always done this, will always do this, used laughter as a shield against fire and loneliness. They make fun of each other's accents, their cooking, their habits. It is affectionate mockery, the kind that bonds rather than divides. Gradually, conversation slows, and weariness seeps into every limb. The march was long. The work of building camp was hard. Their bodies ache with honest fatigue, the kind that makes sleep come easily and deep. Yawns spread from man to man. Eyes grow heavy. Speech becomes slower, words separated by longer pauses. Tents become sleeping spaces, their interiors warm with shared body heat. 8 men lie side by side, packed close, their breathing mingling, their body heat combining against the cold night. In winter, this closeness is essential for survival. In summer, it can be uncomfortable, but they endure. They have learned to sleep in all conditions, in mud, in heat, in cold, with the ground hard beneath them. Cloaks are wrapped tightly around tired shoulders, and rough blankets are pulled up to ward off the chill. Each soldier has his cloak, his sagum, a thick woolen garment that serves as coat, blanket, and sometimes tent. It is one of his most valued possessions, second only to his weapons. The blankets are coarse, scratchy against the skin, but warm. Some men have learned to wrap themselves so efficiently that almost no heat escapes. A few small lamps flicker, then are blown out, leaving only the glow of embers in the fire pits. The fires are allowed to die down but not out. They need to be revived quickly in case of emergency, and the embers will help relight the morning's cooking fires. The glow is warm and orange, pulsing slightly as breezes fan the coals. It casts just enough light to see shapes, to navigate through the tent lines if needed. Along the edges of the camp, sentries keep watch. They pace slowly, listening to the wind in the grass, the faint rustle of animals, the distant call of night birds. A fox might bark in the darkness. An owl might hoot from a nearby tree. Small animals move through the underbrush, their passage marked by rustling sounds. The sentries learn to distinguish these normal sounds from anything unusual, anything that might signal danger. Their eyes scan the darkness, but much of what they see is quiet and still. The watch is usually uneventful. Most nights pass without incident, but they remain alert, because the one night they relax might be the night an enemy attacks. Roman military discipline is legendary for good reason. It keeps soldiers alive. The sentries change every few hours, fresh men replacing tired ones. This ensures that those on watch are always alert, not dulled by exhaustion. It also means everyone gets some sleep, though interrupted. The changing of the guard is quiet, efficient, marked by whispered exchanges and the soft tread of footsteps. Far from Rome, far from the familiar Tiber and the Seven Hills, these men sleep under different constellations. In the northern provinces, they see stars that never rise over Rome. In the east, the heavens seem subtly shifted, familiar patterns in unfamiliar positions. Some men, educated or simply observant, notice these differences, marvel at them, use them to navigate. Yet their pattern is the same: effort in the day, rest at night, the body yielding to the need to recover. This is universal, this rhythm of work and rest, of activity and sleep. It does not matter if you sleep in a villa in Rome or a tent in Gaul. The body has its needs, and sleep is foremost among them. Even in distant provinces, the rhythm of Roman life includes this gentle surrender to sleep. The empire expands, borders push outward, new lands are conquered and pacified, but the soldiers who accomplish this remain human. They grow tired, they need rest, and so each night, wherever they are, they lie down and sleep. If you wish, you can imagine yourself lying in one of these tents. You feel the firmness of the ground beneath a simple bedroll, earth that had been cleared of stones and smoothed as much as possible, but remains hard and unforgiving. You feel the weight of a cloak over your shoulders, wool that scratches slightly but holds warmth. You hear the low murmur of others breathing nearby, the presence of your tent mates, your brothers in arms, their breath rising and falling in the darkness. Outside, the camp is calm, and the night is deep and protective. The rampart and ditch stand between you and the wild world. The sentries pace their routes, the stars wheel slowly overhead, and you, tired beyond measure, drift toward sleep, your last thoughts of home, of family, of the future that awaits when your service ends. Let these thoughts carry you down into rest, into dreams, into the deep peace of exhausted sleep. 6. Great figures, quiet nights. Return now to Rome, where the Republic faces struggles and change. The city that began as a small settlement has grown into a major power, but growth brings complications. Great names begin to echo through the streets: generals, orators, and statesmen whose choices shape the future of the city. Marius and Sulla, Pompey and Crassus, Cicero and Cato, and above all, Julius Caesar, men whose ambitions and conflicts will transform the Republic into something else entirely. During the day, political debates flare in the Senate, that ancient body that guides Rome's policies. The Senate meets in various locations, sometimes in the Curia building in the Forum, sometimes in temples, wherever is deemed appropriate for the business at hand. Senators sit on benches arranged in tiers, like a theater, all facing the presiding magistrate. They wear their togas with the broad purple stripe, their feet in red shoes that mark their rank. The debates can be passionate, even fierce. Men stand to speak, their voices trained in rhetoric, their arguments honed by years of practice and study. They gesture dramatically, appeal to tradition and precedent, invoke the gods and the ancestors, warn of dangers and promise prosperity. They speak of gloria, glory, and dignitas, personal honor, and the good of the republic, though these things do not always align. Crowds gather to hear speeches in the forum, ordinary citizens pressing close to hear the great men speak. The forum is not just a place of business, but a theater of politics, where public opinion is shaped and measured. A skilled orator can sway the mob, as Romans call the common people, can turn them for or against a policy, a person, a law. Rumors travel quickly through taverns and markets, stirring hope and fear in equal measure. Have you heard? Crassus is raising an army. Caesar has won another victory in Gaul. Cicero has denounced Catiline in the Senate. Clodius has been killed on the Appian Way. Each rumor sparks discussion, argument, speculation. People cluster in small groups, speaking in low voices, glancing around to see who might be listening. This is a dangerous time to speak too freely. Political violence has become common. Gangs aligned with different factions fight in the streets. Prominent men hire bodyguards. Some are killed, their bodies left where they fall as warnings. The Republic, which prided itself on law and order, is tearing itself apart. Yet even in turbulent times, night falls as it always has. The sun, indifferent to human conflict, descends toward the horizon. The sky turns orange, then pink, then purple. Shadows lengthen across the forum, across the streets, across the Tiber. And gradually, despite all the tension of the day, the city begins to quiet. Imagine a narrow street off the forum, lined with houses whose upper stories lean slightly inward. The architecture of Rome is dense, buildings crowding close together, creating canyons of stone and wood where sunlight reaches the street for only a few hours each day. In the whispered hours after sunset, these buildings hold the lives of shopkeepers, scribes, artisans, and laborers. A cobbler is closing his shop, bringing inside the last of his tools, the wooden forms he uses to shape leather, the knives and awls and needles of his trade. He bolts the door, climbs the stairs to his family's rooms above the shop. His hands are stained with dye, his fingers calloused from years of working with leather and thread. A scribe sits at his small table, finishing the last of the day's work by lamplight. He has been copying documents, writing letters for those who cannot write, keeping accounts for a merchant. His hand aches from hours of holding the stylus, and his eyes are tired from squinting at wax tablets and papyrus. But the work is done. He can rest now. Whatever talk of conspiracies or reforms fills the daytime, now only soft voices and closing shutters are heard. The political drama continues. It does not stop simply because night has come, but for most people, it recedes. They have their own concerns, their own lives to live. The grand struggles of great men seem distant, abstract, less real than the immediate needs of family and survival. Julius Caesar's name may be on many lips. His actions and ambitions may unsettle the old order and excite the young. He is in Gaul now, conquering tribes, writing dispatches that are read aloud in the forum, building a reputation and an army. Some see him as Rome's savior, the strong man who can restore order. Others see him as a threat to the Republic, a potential tyrant who must be stopped. But as darkness settles, a tavern keeper still sweeps the floor, clearing away the day's debris, spilled wine, dropped food, tracked in mud. He douses the lamps, checking carefully that no flame remains that could start a fire. Rome burns easily, its buildings close together, much of them wood, and fire is one of the city's great fears. Satisfied that all is safe, he goes upstairs to sleep, his mind not on Caesar, but on tomorrow's supplies, on the wine he needs to order, on his daughter's upcoming wedding. In a quieter neighborhood, away from the forum's bustle, a family whose members have attended a public speech returns home. They walked through streets lit by the occasional torch, mounted on walls, past other families also making their way home, past late-working shops and early-closing taverns. Their minds are full of recent events, of the speech they heard, of the arguments they witnessed, of the uncertain future that seems to loom. The father is worried. He has heard talk of war, of army recruitment, of changes to laws that might affect his business. The mother is concerned about their sons. Are they safe? Will they be drawn into conflicts not of their making? The children sense the tension even if they don't fully understand its source. They are quieter than usual, more subdued. They arrive home, and the familiar surroundings provide some comfort. These walls have sheltered their family for years. Here, at least, is safety, or the illusion of it. They change into simpler clothing, wash away the dust of the day in water from a basin. The ritual of preparing for bed is soothing in its familiarity, its ordinariness. Sleep does not always come easily when times are uncertain. The mind resists quieting, keeps churning through worries and possibilities. What if? What will happen when? The father lies on his bed, eyes open in the darkness, thinking. The mother beside him also lies awake, her hand finding his, a gesture of comfort and connection. Yet the body knows how to release its tension, slowly and gradually. This is a skill the body possesses that the mind sometimes lacks, the ability to let go. The shoulders loosen, muscles that have been clenched all day gradually relax. The jaw unclenches, the breathing deepens, becomes more regular, more rhythmic. Breath by breath, the concerns of the late republic soften. The great names, Caesar, Pompey, Cicero, fade into background noise. The political struggles that seem so urgent by day become distant by night. What matters now, in this moment, is rest. The body insists on it, demands it, will eventually take it whether the mind agrees or not. Later, the republic gives way to the empire. The transformation is not instant. There are years of civil war first, Caesar versus Pompey, then Caesar's assassins versus his heirs, then Octavian versus Mark Antony. Blood flows in the streets and on distant battlefields. The old families of the Republic see their power waning. New men rise to prominence, men loyal to the winner of these struggles. And eventually, Octavian stands alone. He takes the name Augustus, meaning revered one, and becomes the first emperor, though he is careful never to call himself king. He restores the appearance of the Republic. The Senate still meets, consuls are still elected, but real power rests with him. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace begins. The civil wars end. Stability returns, though at the cost of liberty. Some rejoice, believing that peace and order will follow. After decades of conflict, the promise of stability is attractive. Trade can flourish, businesses can plan for the future, families can live without fear of sudden violence. The temples begin a building boom as Augustus restores Rome's sacred spaces. The city becomes more beautiful, more organized. Others worry that old freedoms are fading. The Republic, for all its flaws, was participatory. Citizens voted, held office, served on juries, had a voice in governance. Under the empire, these forms continue but become increasingly hollow. Real decisions are made in the emperor's palace, in private meetings among his advisors and friends. The people have security, but less agency. Still, the city at night looks similar. Glowing lamps, shadowed alleys, quiet courtyards. The physical city does not change overnight. The same streets wind between the same buildings. The same families live in the same insulae. The Tiber still flows through the city's heart, dark and steady. Men and women lie on their beds, feeling the softness of wool, hearing the distant clatter of a cart on late business. Carts are still banned during the day, still allowed only at night. So the sound of wheels on stone, the creak of axles, the voices of drivers calling to their oxen continues to mark the Roman night. Whatever the politics of the day, sleep remains a refuge. It is the one place politics cannot reach, the one time when emperors and beggars are equal. All must sleep. All surrender consciousness to that mysterious other realm where dreams happen and the body heals. Imagine walking past the Palatine Hill, where the emperor's residence stands. Augustus has built his home here, choosing the hill associated with Rome's founding, with Romulus and the she-wolf. His palace is grand but not ostentatious. He is careful to present himself as first among equals, not as a king. Lights burn in some windows. Guards stand at doorways. But inside, eventually, even the emperor must sleep. Now walk past humbler homes below the Palatine, where freedmen and laborers live in crowded insulae. The buildings lean against each other, their walls thin enough that you can hear your neighbors' conversations. The rooms are small, the furnishings minimal, but here too, families prepare for bed, children are tucked in, prayers are whispered. Both palace and tenement will eventually dim their lights. Both hold people who must relinquish their waking concerns and enter the same dark ocean of dreams. The emperor may sleep on silk with goose-down pillows. The laborer may sleep on straw with a rough blanket. But the sleep itself is the same. That universal human experience, that nightly death and rebirth, that mystery we all share. In the quiet of night, Rome is not divided into patricians and plebeians, citizens and slaves, powerful and powerless. In the quiet of night, all are simply people, tired people, people who need rest, people who close their eyes and drift away to wherever it is we go when we sleep. And in this, there is a kind of equality, a reminder that beneath all our differences, we share the same basic humanity, the same basic needs. 7. Empire at its height. Let the timeline drift forward again. As the Roman Empire reaches its greatest extent, the years pass, emperors come and go. Augustus followed by Tiberius, then Caligula, Claudius, Nero, and through the chaos of civil war to the Flavian dynasty and beyond. The empire reaches its greatest territorial extent under Trajan in the early 2nd century, stretching from Britain in the northwest to Egypt in the south, from Spain in the west to Mesopotamia in the east, from Britain in the northwest to Egypt in the south, from Spain to Syria. Roman roads and laws connect distant peoples. A merchant can travel from Londinium to Alexandria, a journey of thousands of miles, and everywhere he goes, he finds Roman roads, Roman law, Roman coins accepted as currency. Latin and Greek are spoken throughout, the common languages of commerce and culture. Local languages persist, but the administrative language is Latin in the West, Greek in the East. In the capital, the city has grown impressive. The population has swelled to perhaps 1 million people, making Rome one of the largest cities the world has ever seen. Elegant temples rise above the streets, their columns white in the sunlight. The Pantheon, with its perfect dome, stands as a triumph of engineering. The Colosseum, the Flavian amphitheater, dominates the landscape, its arches and tiers rising high above the surrounding buildings. Bath complexes offer warm, steamy rooms and cool pools, where citizens relax and cleanse body and mind. The Thermae, the great public baths, are marvels of architecture and engineering. The baths of Trajan, the baths of Caracalla, the baths of Diocletian, massive structures containing not just bathing areas, but libraries, gardens, gymnasia, shops, and meeting spaces. They are heated by hypocaust, systems of channels beneath the floors through which hot air circulates, warming the rooms above. To visit the baths is a social occasion as much as a hygienic one. You enter in the afternoon, paying a small fee, sometimes even free on holidays. You move through a series of rooms, the apodicterium where you undress and leave your clothes with attendants, the palaestra where you might exercise, the caldarium, the hot room where you sit in steamy heat and sweat, the tepidarium, the warm room, the frigidarium, the cold room, where you might plunge into a cold pool to close your pores and invigorate your body. Between rooms, you might have oil rubbed into your skin, then scraped off with a strigil, a curved metal tool that removes dirt and dead skin. You might chat with friends, conduct business, hear gossip, make connections. The baths are equalizers in some ways. All are naked, all following the same routine. Though the wealthy might have private areas and personal attendants. But as day fades, even this bustling metropolis softens around the edges. Baths close their doors at dusk, the fires beneath them allowed to die down, the rooms cooling as the sun sets. Shops pack away their goods, sliding wooden shutters across openings, bolting doors. The roar of traffic declines as the day's business concludes, and people head home. The scent of smoke, cooking food, and lingering perfumes hangs lightly in the cooling air. Bakeries have been working all day, and the smell of fresh bread is everywhere. Garum, that fermented fish sauce the Romans love, adds its distinctive pungent aroma. Incense from temples mixes with wood smoke from cooking fires. Perfumes worn by the wealthy, myrrh, frankincense, rose oil, leave traces in the air as they pass. Imagine a wealthy villa on the outskirts of the city, perhaps on the Esquiline Hill, or beyond the walls toward the countryside. These villas are estates, combining townhouse and farm, places of both elegance and productivity. Its courtyard holds a graceful fountain, water trickling over carved stone into a clear basin. The fountain might be decorated with statues, dolphins spouting water, nymphs pouring from urns, Neptune with his trident. Vines climb columned walkways, their leaves rustling gently in the evening breeze. Grapevines, trained on trellises, provide both shade and fruit. Ivy clings to walls, softening the stone with green. Roses grow in beds, their blooms heavy and fragrant in the warm months. Inside the villa, servants move quietly, extinguishing lamps and closing shutters. The household is large, the family, their relatives, and numerous slaves who perform every task from cooking to secretarial work to teaching the children. As evening progresses, the slaves complete their duties, some retiring to their own quarters, others remaining on call through the night in case the master or mistress requires anything. The household prepares for sleep, garments are folded, jewelry is removed, and bare feet touch cool, smooth floors. The family has spent the day in togas and stolas, the formal garments required for public life, but at home they wear simpler tunics, or, preparing for bed, might wear nothing at all. Romans are not particularly modest in private. Jewelry is carefully stored. The mistress removes her gold necklaces, her bracelets, her rings, each piece precious, each with its story. She hands them to her personal slave, who places them in a wooden box inlaid with ivory. Gold fibulae, the brooches used to fasten garments, are set aside. Even hairstyles are undone. Elaborate arrangements of curls and braids, maintained by hours of work, are let down, hair brushed out, and left loose for the night. In bedrooms, beds with carved frames stand ready, layered with soft mattresses and covers. These are substantial pieces of furniture, crafted from fine woods, walnut, maple, citrus wood, and decorated with inlays of ivory or precious metals. The frames might have posts at the corners for hanging curtains. The mattresses are stuffed with wool, and the finest are topped with feather beds, incredibly soft and luxurious. Pillows are filled with down or soft wool, covered in linen. Sheets are linen, finely woven, soft from many washings. Blankets are wool, but of the finest grade, perhaps dyed with expensive colors like Tyrian purple. The bed is not just furniture, but a display of wealth and status. As the last lamp is dimmed, the only light may come from a small opening in the roof or from narrow windows high in the wall. Roman architecture favors internal courtyards over external windows, so bedrooms often receive light and air from interior spaces rather than from the street. This makes them quieter, more private, more secure. Moonlight paints a pale path across the floor, falling through the compluvium, the opening in the atrium's roof. The floor itself might be mosaic, tiny tiles arranged in geometric patterns or scenes from mythology. In moonlight, these patterns are transformed, becoming mysterious and dreamlike. The gentle splash of the courtyard fountain continues, steady and reassuring. Water is precious, and a fountain is a display of wealth. Only the rich can afford to have water constantly flowing, but it also serves a purpose beyond display. The sound is soothing, natural, helping to mask other sounds and promote relaxation. The Romans understood the psychological benefits of water features long before modern psychology existed. Meanwhile, in a crowded insula in the city center, a different scene unfolds. Multiple families share the same building, some in small rooms, some tucked beneath stairways or in cramped spaces. The building rises 5 or 6 stories, each floor progressively smaller and cheaper than the one below. The lower floors, closer to street level, are more desirable. You don't have to climb as many stairs. Fire risk is lower. Structural stability is better. The upper floors are another matter. The rooms are tiny, the ceilings low, the walls thin. In summer, the heat is oppressive. Hot air rises, and the top floors bake under the sun. In winter, they are cold and drafty. Water must be carried up all those stairs. Waste must be carried down. The stairs themselves are often narrow and steep, barely wide enough for one person, treacherous in darkness. Yet even here, a similar pattern emerges. Meals end, lamps are lowered, and bodies seek rest. The family shares a single room, perhaps 15 feet square. The parents have a bed, little more than a wooden frame with rope and straw. The children sleep on mats on the floor. A small brazier provides heat in winter and a place to cook simple meals. The window is just a small opening, closed with a wooden shutter. They eat their evening meal, Porridge, perhaps, or bread and onions, a bit of cheese if they're lucky. The father works at the docks, unloading ships that bring grain from Egypt and North Africa. It's hard labor, dawn to dusk, and his body aches. The mother takes in washing, spending her days scrubbing other people's clothes in the Tiber's water, her hands rough and chapped. The children will soon begin working too. Rome does not have compulsory education, and poor families need every denarius they can earn. But tonight, work is over. They settle in their small space. Words are exchanged, but few. Everyone is tired. A prayer to the household gods, barely more than a whisper. The lamp is extinguished to save oil. Darkness fills the room. Outside, the noise of the city continues. But here, in this small space, a kind of peace descends. The noise of the city never disappears entirely. Far away, a late cart may rattle over stone paving, its load of goods shifting with each bump, or a dog may bark at some unseen movement, its voice echoing through the streets. Or drunken voices, someone singing off-key, stumbling home from a tavern, or an infant crying, its wails carrying through thin walls. But these sounds become part of a distant backdrop, like soft waves beyond the walls. You become accustomed to city noise. Stop hearing it consciously. It becomes white noise, texture rather than distraction. And eventually, despite it all, sleep comes. Beyond Rome, provincial cities mirror these rhythms on a smaller scale. In Gaul, in cities like Lugdunum or Narbo Martius, Roman villas and insulae house families who follow similar routines. In Spain, in Tarraco or Cordoba, the day ends with the same rituals of washing, eating, praying, sleeping. In North Africa, in Carthage rebuilt as a Roman city, or Leptis Magna, the same patterns hold. In Greece, in ancient cities like Athens and Corinth, now under Roman rule, Greek culture blends with Roman administration. The architecture is different. Greek columns and pediments instead of Roman arches, but the daily rhythms are similar. In the Near East, in Antioch, in Jerusalem, in the great cities of Syria and Judea, Roman governance and local traditions coexist, and everyone, Roman and native alike, must sleep. Under different constellations and in varied climates, people lay down their burdens and close their eyes. In the far north, in Britain and Germania, summer nights are short and bright, winter nights long and dark. In the south, in Egypt and Africa, the heat of the day makes the cool of night precious. In the east, monsoons bring seasonal rains that drum on roofs and fill cisterns. But everywhere, the human need for sleep is the same. The empire is vast and powerful, but in the privacy of the night, power matters less than comfort. A governor in his palace and a farmer in his hut both need the same thing, rest, and both find it in the same way, by lying down, closing their eyes, and letting go. In this shared silence, a merchant in Carthage preparing his ships for tomorrow's voyage, a farmer near the Danube checking that his livestock are secure, and a magistrate in Rome reviewing tomorrow's court cases all experience the same simple truth. Sleep is necessary, universal, and deeply human. It is the great equalizer, the one thing that cannot be purchased or commanded, that comes only when we stop trying, when we surrender. Let yourself feel part of this vast empire, these millions of people, all settling into sleep at different times as the sun sets on different horizons, but all participating in the same ancient ritual. Feel your connection to them. Across 2,000 years, across all the differences of language and culture and circumstance. We are all, finally, the same in this. We all need rest. We all need sleep. We all close our eyes and drift away. 8. Religion, temples, and dreams. Now, turn your attention to the sacred side of Roman life. Temples and shrines dot the city, each dedicated to different gods and spirits. The religious landscape of Rome is complex, layered, full of rituals and traditions accumulated over centuries. By day, people come to these places with offerings, incense, wine, small cakes, or figurines. The act of giving to the gods is fundamental to Roman religion. The relationship between humans and gods is transactional in a sense. Duat des, I give so that you may give. You offer sacrifice, perform rituals correctly, and in return, the gods provide favor, protection, prosperity. They pray for health, success, protection, and safe journeys. A merchant about to depart on a voyage prays to Neptune for calm seas. A woman hoping for a child prays to Juno, protector of women and childbirth. A farmer prays to Ceres for a good harvest. A soldier prays to Mars before battle. A student prays to Minerva for wisdom. Every aspect of life has its presiding deity, every need its appropriate god. Priests and priestesses perform rituals according to old traditions. The rituals must be performed exactly right. The correct words, the correct gestures, the correct offerings. If any mistake is made, the whole ritual must be started over. The gods are believed to be exacting, to notice errors, to withdraw favor if not properly honored. The priests wear distinctive garments. The flamens, priests dedicated to specific gods, wear pointed caps called apex. The pontifices, the high priests, wear togas in the prescribed manner. The augurs, who interpret the will of the gods by observing bird flight and other omens, carry curved staffs called lichuus. The Vestal virgins, priestesses of Vesta, wear white robes and distinctive headdresses, their hair styled in an archaic fashion, bound with woolen ribbons. But at night, many temples grow quiet. Their grand columns cast long shadows in the moonlight, dark bars falling across pale marble. Torches burn lower in their sconces, flames dwindling as the oil or pitch is consumed. The crowds have gone home. The priests have completed the day's rituals and retired to their quarters. The temples stand empty, or nearly so, vast spaces filled with silence and moonlight. In some healing cults and sacred spaces, people practice forms of ritual sleep, hoping for dreams that carry divine messages. This practice, called incubation, is especially associated with Asclepius, the Greek god of healing, whom Romans also worship, calling him Aesculapius. His temple on the Tiber Island is a place of pilgrimage for the sick and injured. They may lie down in a temple complex or near a sacred site, waiting for the night to bring visions. The process has rituals attached to it. First, purification, bathing, fasting, abstaining from certain foods or activities. Then prayers and offerings. Then, as night falls, lying down in a designated space, a place made sacred by its association with the god. In such places, sleep is not just rest, but a bridge between the human world and the divine. Sleep is when the boundary between worlds becomes thin, when gods can speak to mortals, when healing can occur, when questions can be answered. The dreams that come in these sacred places are considered especially significant, messages from the divine realm. Imagine a person lying on simple bedding in a shrine, listening to the rustle of leaves and the faint crackling of torches. The temple of Asclepius has a grove of trees, sacred to the god, and at night the wind moves through their branches with a sound like whispered conversation. The torches mounted on the temple walls burn with a scent of pitch and aromatic oils, sending up thin trails of smoke. The stone beneath them is cool and solid, grounding them in the present moment. They can feel the hardness of it through the thin mat they lie on, feel the slight unevenness of the paving. It is not comfortable in the way a soft bed is comfortable, but that is partly the point. This is not ordinary sleep. This is a vigil, a waiting, a request to the divine. Yet their thoughts float upward, toward the gods they hope will answer. They think of their illness, the pain they've been enduring, the desperation that brought them here. They think of the god Asclepius, imagining him as he is shown in statues, bearded, kind-faced, holding his staff around which a serpent winds. They pray, silently or in whispers, asking for healing, asking for guidance, asking for a dream that will show them what to do. Inside a quiet home, household shrines, little altars with small statues or painted symbols, watch over the family. Every Roman home has its lararium, a small shrine to the lares, the protective spirits of the household. The lararium might be a niche in the wall, decorated with paint and containing small figurines, or it might be a small wooden cabinet with doors that can be opened for prayer and closed afterward. The lares are depicted as young men, often dancing, holding drinking horns or bowls. They protect the family, guard the home, bring prosperity. Along with the lares, the shrine often includes images of the penates, gods of the storeroom and household supplies, and the family's genius, the protective spirit of the paterfamilias, the head of household. Before bed, a brief prayer might be spoken in a soft voice. The mother of the household, or sometimes the father, stands before the lararium. They might light a small lamp or stick of incense. They speak a traditional prayer, asking the lars and penates to watch over the family through the night, to guard them from harm, to bring them safely to the morning. The flame of a candle or lamp may flicker before the figures, then be gently snuffed out. A pinch of incense on a hot coal sends up fragrant smoke, myrrh or frankincense or simple herbs. The smoke rises and dissipates, carrying prayers upward to the divine realm. Dreams have special meaning to many Romans. The culture takes dreams seriously, believing them to be messages, sometimes from gods, sometimes from the dead, sometimes prophecies of the future. Some people consult dream books or interpreters, seeking guidance from the images their minds create during sleep. Dream interpretation is a recognized art. Professional interpreters, called onirokritai in Greek, offer their services. You describe your dream in detail, and they analyze its symbols, apply traditional meanings, and advise you about what it signifies. A dream of losing teeth might mean the loss of a family member. A dream of flying might indicate success or danger, depending on details. A dream of snakes might be good or bad. Snakes are associated with healing, but also with danger. The most famous dream book from antiquity is the Oneirocritica by Artemidorus, written in the 2nd century CE. It catalogs thousands of dream symbols and their meanings, distinguishing between dreams that are direct messages and those that are symbolic. The book is exhaustive, covering dreams of the body, dreams of nature, dreams of gods, dreams of activities, dreams of animals, everything imaginable. Others simply accept dreams as passing mysteries, glimpses of a world beyond waking thought. They wake in the morning with fragments of images, feelings without context, stories that dissolve even as you try to remember them. They might mention a dream to their family over breakfast, but they don't seek interpretation. Don't believe every dream carries deep meaning. Dreams are just part of sleep, part of being human. As you picture these scenes, you might feel the way night blurs the boundary between the known and the unknown. During the day, the world seems solid, definite, knowable. We navigate it with confidence, understanding cause and effect, recognizing patterns. But at night, things become uncertain. Shadows hide details. Sounds are ambiguous. The mind becomes more suggestible, more open to possibility. The solid shapes of the city soften in the darkness, just as waking concerns soften once the eyes close. The hard edges of buildings become indistinct. The clear categories of day, this is a temple, that is a shop, this is public, that is private, become less certain. Everything merges into a landscape of shadow and moonlight. In this twilight space, it is easier to let go, easier to release the rational mind's control, easier to accept mystery, to not need explanations, to simply experience. The Romans, with their complex system of gods and rituals, their belief in omens and prophecies, their practice of dream incubation, understood something important, that human life contains more than can be explained rationally, that there are dimensions beyond the physical and observable. Modern people might dismiss these beliefs as superstition, but they served important psychological functions. They provided comfort in uncertainty, offered explanations for the inexplicable, gave people a sense of agency in a world where much was beyond their control. And the rituals around sleep, the prayers, the offerings, the careful attention to dreams, sanctified rest, made it holy, connected it to the larger patterns of existence. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you can participate in your own small ritual. You don't need to pray to Roman gods or interpret your dreams according to ancient systems, but you can acknowledge that sleep is important, that it is more than just physical rest. You can create your own sacred space for sleep, however you define that. You can let go of the day with intention, releasing worries and concerns, trusting that tomorrow will take care of itself. Feel yourself settling into your bed, into this moment. Notice your breathing, slow and steady. Notice the weight of your body, supported completely. Notice the darkness, whether complete or partial, and let it be restful rather than frightening. Darkness is not absence, but presence. The presence of night, of rest, of the unknown that is not threatening, but simply mysterious. The Romans slept surrounded by their household gods, trusting in divine protection. You can sleep trusting in your own resilience, in your body's wisdom, in the natural rhythms that carry us through each day and night. You can sleep knowing that billions of humans before you have closed their eyes and drifted into dreams, and billions will after you, and that this shared experience connects us all. Let the boundary between waking and sleeping blur. Let thoughts become less logical, more associative. Let images form and dissolve without trying to understand or control them. Let yourself drift, like a leaf on a stream, carried by currents you don't need to direct. The water knows where it's going. Your body knows how to sleep. You need only to allow it, to surrender, to let go. 9. Late Empire evenings. Time moves on, and the empire begins to face new challenges. The 3rd century brings a period historians will call the crisis of the 3rd century. 50 years of near-constant civil war, economic collapse, plague, and invasion. Emperors rise and fall with alarming frequency, sometimes multiple claimants fighting for the throne simultaneously. The borders are threatened, economies strain, and leadership becomes less stable. Borders are threatened by Germanic tribes pressing from the north, by Persians pushing from the east. The Rhine and Danube frontiers, once secure, now require constant vigilance. Raids penetrate deep into Roman territory. Cities that have never needed walls scramble to build them. The army, once an instrument of expansion, becomes primarily defensive, stretched thin trying to hold too much territory with too few men. Economies strain under the pressure. Debasement of currency causes inflation. The silver content of coins is reduced again and again until the coins are barely more than bronze with a silver wash. Prices soar. Trade routes become dangerous. Tax collection becomes difficult. The government prints more money, which only makes inflation worse. Wealth flees to tangible goods, land, gold, hoarded supplies, instead of circulating through the economy. Plague sweeps through the empire repeatedly. The Antonine Plague in the 2nd century, the Plague of Cyprian in the 3rd, diseases that kill millions, that depopulate cities and countryside, that strike without warning and without cure. Bodies pile up faster than they can be buried. Trade and travel spread the diseases. The army, with its constant movement and crowded conditions, is particularly hard hit. Yet in the city of Rome, life continues. It must. People cannot simply stop living because times are hard. Children go to their lessons or work beside their parents, learning trades that might help them survive. Markets still open each morning, though the goods available may be less abundant. The price is higher. Bread is still baked in warm ovens, though the grain now comes less reliably from Egypt and Africa, and its price strains family budgets. In the evenings, there may be more talk of fear, of scarcity, of uncertain futures. Neighbors gather and exchange stories of rumors and changes, of new laws and new pressures. Have you heard? Another emperor has been assassinated. The Goths have crossed the Danube. Taxes are being raised again. The grain dole is being reduced. Each piece of news adds to the general anxiety. But as night deepens, voices quiet and doors close, just as they always have. Despite everything, the rhythms persist. The sun still sets. Darkness still falls. People still grow tired, and tired people still need sleep, regardless of the state of the empire. In a modest home, perhaps the furniture is worn and the clothes are patched, but the bedtime rituals remain familiar. The wooden chair that has served for 20 years is polished smooth by use, its joints loose, but still functional. The blankets have been mended so many times that it's hard to say how much of the original fabric remains, but they still provide warmth. The lamp is older than the youngest child, its clay body chipped, but its function unimpaired. The family eats, though the meal is simpler than it once was. Bread, hard and dark, made from grain that includes more chaff than it used to. A thin soup of lentils and onions. No meat. They haven't had meat in weeks. No cheese. Too expensive. But the food fills the stomach, provides energy, keeps body and soul together. They clean up, washing their few dishes, banking the fire, putting away what little needs to be put away. The children help, even the youngest, because everyone's labor is needed. The father's back hurts. Years of heavy labor have taken their toll, and he's not as young as he was. The mother's cough, which has lingered for months, sounds worse at night. They prepare the sleeping spaces, the bed for the parents, the mats for the children. A small lamp provides light for a few final tasks, checking that the door is properly barred, that the fire is safely contained, that everything necessary for the night is at hand. Outside, some buildings show signs of age and neglect. Stones crack, their mortar crumbling, paint flakes from walls, exposing brick or plaster beneath. Statues lose some of their clarity, features worn smooth by weather, limbs broken and not repaired. Roofs sag, tiles slip, and leaks go unpatched. The government has less money for public works. Aqueducts that once received regular maintenance now deteriorate. Some sections fail, reducing water flow. Public baths, which require enormous amounts of water and fuel, reduce their hours or close entirely. The city that once gleamed with marble is beginning to look shabby, yet the streets still carry people back to their homes, their steps slow and tired at the end of the day. The streets are darker than they used to be. There are fewer public lamps, less oil available to burn in them. People carry their own lamps or torches if they must go out after dark, or they simply navigate by moonlight and memory. When the lamp is finally extinguished, the room is wrapped in darkness. For a moment, the quiet may feel heavy, filled with worries about tomorrow. The father thinks about work. Will there be work tomorrow? The jobs are less regular now, the pay lower. The mother thinks about the children. Are they getting enough to eat? The youngest seems so thin. The cough she's had, the one that won't go away. What if it's serious? These worries are real. They have weight. They press on the mind even as the body lies still. It would be easy to stay awake all night, turning problems over and over, finding no solutions. But then the body insists on what it needs. Breath by breath, the concerns of the late empire soften. The body has its own wisdom, its own imperatives that override the mind's anxieties. Muscles relax, beginning with the large muscles of the legs and back, then the smaller muscles of the hands and face. Tension held in the jaw releases. The forehead smooths. The eyes, which have been clenched shut against worry, relax behind their lids. Breathing deepens, becomes more regular. The chest rises and falls in a steady rhythm, slower than the waking rhythm, deeper. Each breath carries away a bit more tension, a bit more thought. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The rhythm is ancient, the rhythm of life itself, and it carries the person down towards sleep. Thoughts begin to wander, losing their logical thread. A worry about tomorrow becomes an image from the past, which becomes a fragment of a dream, which dissolves into nothing. The mind is letting go, preparing for sleep, for dreams, for the restoration that only rest can bring. The person lying there becomes less aware of history and more aware of the simple comfort of lying still. The crisis of the 3rd century, the economic problems, the threats to the borders, these fade into the background. What is real now is the mattress beneath, the blanket above, the darkness around, the breath moving in and out. Across the empire, in cities and small villages, this pattern repeats. In Trier, in what is now Germany, the capital of the Western Empire during parts of this period, families settle for the night in homes both grand and humble. In Antioch, in Syria, one of the empire's great eastern cities, the same rituals play out. In Alexandria, in Egypt, still wealthy from grain exports but also suffering from instability, people lie down to sleep. Wherever Roman rule still reaches, people end their days with the same act of surrender. The empire may be in crisis, But individual lives go on. You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to work, eat, care for your family. And at night, you still have to sleep. Eyes close, minds drift. And the night holds them gently for a few hours. Not forever. The problems will still be there in the morning. The empire will still be struggling. But for now, for these hours of darkness, there is respite. There is rest. There is the mercy of unconsciousness, the gift of dreams, the kindness of sleep. The late empire will eventually stabilize, at least partially. Diocletian will reform the government, dividing the empire into eastern and western halves for administrative purposes. Constantine will legalize Christianity, transforming the religious landscape. The capital will move from Rome to Constantinople. The empire will continue, in changed form, for centuries yet, the Eastern Empire surviving as Byzantium until 1453. But that is later. Tonight, in this moment of crisis, in this moment of uncertainty, the only thing that matters is this. Tired people need rest, and so they take it as best they can, trusting that morning will come and with it the strength to face another day. Let yourself feel the weight of those times, the difficulty of living through historical crisis, of not knowing what the future holds, and then let yourself feel the relief of letting go, of releasing those burdens for the night, of trusting in sleep to restore you. The Romans of the late empire had no choice but to hope, to endure, to survive one day at a time. And they did, in part because each night they could rest, could sleep, could find a few hours of peace in the darkness. You too can rest now. Whatever concerns you carry, whatever uncertainties cloud your future, you can set them aside for the night. They will wait for you. They always do. But you don't have to carry them into sleep. You can let them go, just for now, just for these hours. You can breathe slowly, deeply, and let your body do what it knows how to do. Rest, restore, renew. Let the late Roman night embrace you and drift gently towards sleep. 10. Fade into memory. Let the centuries slip away now, flowing past like water over stones. Time, which seemed so important to each individual living through it, becomes distant and dreamlike. The Western Roman Empire eventually falls, its institutions and armies fading or transforming into something new. The date traditionally given is 476 CE, when the last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus, ironically sharing the name of Rome's founder, is deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. But the fall is not sudden or dramatic, not a single moment when the lights go out. It is gradual, a slow dissolution over decades and centuries. Provinces are lost, then sometimes recovered, then lost again permanently. Armies shrink, tax revenues decline, the apparatus of government becomes less efficient, less responsive. Barbarian kingdoms arise within what had been Roman territory, their kings sometimes claiming to rule in Rome's name, sometimes ignoring Rome entirely. The city of Rome changes hands, endures invasions, and adapts to new rulers and new faiths. In 410, Alaric and the Visigoths sack the city, the first time in 800 years that Rome has fallen to an enemy. The psychological impact is enormous. Jerome, writing from Bethlehem, says, "The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken." Augustine writes, "The city of God partly in response, arguing that earthly cities fall but the heavenly city is eternal." In 455, the Vandals sack Rome again, more thoroughly. In 476, Odoacer takes control. The Senate still meets, nominally. The aristocracy persists, but real power has shifted. The Western Empire is gone, fragmenting into various Germanic kingdoms: Ostrogoths in Italy, Visigoths in Spain, Franks in Gaul, Vandals in North Africa. Buildings crumble, statues break, and some temples are repurposed or abandoned. The Pantheon, that magnificent dome temple to all the gods, is converted into a Christian church, which ironically helps preserve it. Many other temples are less fortunate. Their stones are quarried for new construction. Their columns are toppled or carted away. Their statues are broken, melted down for metal, or buried by later builders. The streets themselves shift, but their outlines remain, like faint lines in an ancient map. New buildings rise on the ruins of old ones. Ground level rises as debris accumulates. In some parts of Rome, the ancient street level is now 20 feet or more below the modern surface. But if you know where to look, you can still see the ancient city beneath the medieval and modern layers. Yet not everything disappears. The past is remarkably persistent, remarkably difficult to erase completely. Roads survive in pieces, still used by travelers. The great Roman roads, built so solidly, continue to carry traffic. Some are maintained, some deteriorate but remain passable. Some become the foundations for modern roads that follow the same routes. Bridges continue to carry people over rivers. The Ponce Fabricius, connecting the Tiber Island to the East Bank, still stands and still functions after more than 2,000 years. The arches that carried aqueducts continue to march across the countryside, though many no longer carry water. They are too useful to tear down completely, and too solid to destroy easily. Walls and arches stand against the sky, testifying to a long-vanished world. The Colosseum still dominates the landscape, though it has been damaged by earthquakes and stripped of its marble facing and metal clamps. The Arch of Constantine still spans the street. The walls of the Baths of Caracalla still enclose their vast spaces, though the roofs are gone and birds nest where Romans once bathed. Imagine walking through Rome many centuries later, long after the empire has fallen. You might be a medieval pilgrim, come to visit Christian sites in the city that now houses the Pope. You might be a Renaissance scholar, interested in the classical past, trying to learn from ancient texts and ruins. You might be a modern tourist, camera in hand, guidebook in pocket. You pass ruins of farms and baths, where grass now grows between the stones. The Forum Romanum, once the center of the world's greatest empire, is now called Campo Vaccino, the cowfield, because cattle graze among the ruins. The Palatine Hill, where emperors lived in magnificent palaces, is covered in gardens and vineyards. Columns lie broken on the ground. Marble blocks are half buried in earth. Birds nest in cracks high up in old walls. Swallows dart through arches. Pigeons perch on pediments. Ivy and fig trees grow from crevices, their roots slowly prying apart the masonry. Nature is patient and relentless, gradually reclaiming what humans built. In the quiet of early morning or late evening, these ruins feel especially peaceful. The crowds of tourists have not yet arrived or have already left. You can walk alone among the stones, your footsteps echoing slightly. The air is still or moved by gentle breezes. Light falls at angles that illuminate the ancient textures, the marks of chisels on stone, the grooves where carts wore ruts in paving, the weathering of 2,000 years. They are no longer centers of power, but places of stillness and reflection. The Forum that once echoed with political speeches now offers only the songs of birds and the whisper of wind. The baths where thousands gathered daily now stand empty and silent. The temples where priests performed ancient rituals now house only memories. What was once busy and loud is now calm, open, and spacious. The energy that filled these spaces, the arguments and laughter, the business and ceremony, the urgency and importance, has dissipated like smoke. What remains is stone and space, form without function, beauty without purpose except the purpose of bearing witness. The people who lived, worked, and slept here are gone, but their stories linger. Not individual stories, mostly. We don't know the names of most of the millions who lived in Rome over its centuries of dominance. We know emperors and generals, senators and historians, but the baker, the dock worker, the mother washing clothes in the Tiber, the child playing in the street, they are anonymous, their individual lives lost. Yet collectively, they remain. Their language has changed and blended into new tongues: Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, languages spoken by nearly 1 billion people, all descended from Latin. English, though Germanic in structure, borrowed thousands of words from Latin. Legal and medical terminology, scientific nomenclature, religious vocabulary, all heavily influenced by Latin. Their customs have influenced laws, architecture, and ways of thinking far beyond their time. Roman law is the foundation of many modern legal systems. Roman architectural techniques, the arch, the vault, the dome, enabled buildings that still inspire. Roman ideas about citizenship, about republic government, about civic duty, continue to resonate. As you think of ancient Rome now, let the noise of history, wars, politics, drama fade into the distance. Those things happened. They shaped the world, but they are not what matters most right now. Not what is most useful for sleep. Bring forward instead the softer images: a lamp being dimmed, a bed prepared, a family lying down together in the dark. Remember the steady rhythm of their breathing, the feel of cool air on their skin, the quiet murmur of distant fountains and night insects. Remember the mother adjusting her child's blanket, the father working the last tension from his shoulders, the elderly grandparents settling into familiar comfort, the young couple, newly married, finding reassurance in each other's presence. These moments were real. They happened countless times, in countless homes, over countless nights. They were not recorded in history books, not commemorated in monuments, not remembered in songs, but they were the substance of life, the daily fabric of existence, the moments that mattered most to the people living them. Now, connect this long story to your own body. Bring your awareness to the present moment, to your immediate physical experience. Feel the surface you are lying on, whether it is a bed, a couch, or another resting place. Notice its texture, its temperature, its firmness or softness. Sense the way it supports you completely, holding your weight without effort or complaint. Notice your breathing, slow and calm. Don't try to change it, just observe it. Each inhale brings in cool, gentle air, filling your lungs, providing oxygen to every cell in your body. Each exhale carries away a little more tension, a little more of the day. The breath is automatic, always there, always reliable. The rhythm that has sustained you since birth and will sustain you until death. The history of Rome stretches far behind you now, like a road disappearing into the horizon. You can see it if you look back, the hills and the river, the early huts and the grand temples, the republic and the empire, the rise and the fall. But the distance is great, and the details are obscured by time. You do not need to follow it any further tonight. The story is told, or at least, enough of it for now. Its hills, rivers, streets, and houses can rest where they are in the past, 2,000 years ago, and more. They are part of the great tapestry of human history, but you are not obligated to keep vigil over them. In this moment, only the present matters. Your body relaxed, your eyes closed, your mind free to drift. You have nowhere to go, nothing to do, no responsibilities to fulfill. This time is yours, given freely, for rest and restoration. You have earned it simply by being alive, by making it through another day. Thoughts may come and go like travelers passing on a road. You might think about something you did today. You might think about something you need to do tomorrow. You might have random, disconnected thoughts, memories, images, fragments of songs, odd associations. This is normal. This is how the mind works as it prepares for sleep. But you do not have to greet these thoughts. Do not have to engage with them. You can let them pass. Imagine yourself sitting by the side of a road, watching travelers go by. You nod to them, acknowledge their presence, but you don't stop them or follow them. They continue on their way, and you remain where you are, peaceful and still. There is nothing to build tonight, nothing to conquer, nothing to decide. The Romans built their empire over centuries of effort and ambition. They conquered vast territories. They made endless decisions about war and peace, law and governance. But at night, all of that ceased to matter. At night, they were simply people, tired people, people who needed to rest. Just as Rome once slept under the stars, you are free to sleep under your own night sky. Whether you can see stars or not, whether your window opens onto city lights or darkness, you are connected to the same rhythms that guided Romans to sleep. The cycle of day and night is universal, ancient, unchanging. Let the story fade into silence now. Let the voices of ancient Rome, the senators' speeches, the merchants' bargaining, the soldiers' marching songs, grow quiet and distant. Let the images blur. The farms and temples, the insulae and villas, the roads and aqueducts, they were real, they were important, but now they are past, and you are present. And let yourself slip gently into deep, restful sleep. Feel your body growing heavier, sinking into the support beneath you. Feel your breathing becoming slower, softer, barely noticeable. Feel your mind releasing its grip on consciousness, drifting into that mysterious realm where dreams occur and the body heals. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are exactly where you need to be. The Romans found their rest 2,000 years ago. Medieval sleepers found theirs centuries later. Every generation, every person has done this. Closed their eyes and trusted in sleep, and now it is your turn. Let go. Let yourself fall gently, softly, the way you might fall onto a bed of feathers or into warm water. There is no danger in this falling, only release. Let the darkness embrace you, not as something frightening, but as something comforting, natural, necessary. Breathe slowly. Breathe deeply, and with each breath, drift a little further from waking, a little closer to sleep. The boundary between the two is thin and easily crossed. You are crossing it now, gently, peacefully, carried by the ancient rhythms that have carried billions before you. Sleep now, rest now, Dream now. The story of Rome is over for tonight. Your story continues in sleep, in dreams, in the restorative darkness. Let yourself go completely, trusting in the wisdom of your body, the mercy of the night, and the promise of morning. Sleep, sleep, sleep.